This is episode 68 of Changing the Face of Yoga. And I'm interviewing Lauren Maher today. And Lauren is going to talk about her retreats and the health benefits that can occur as you go to a yoga retreat. So let's listen. Hello, and welcome to Change the Face of Yoga, teaching toddlers through golden oldies. I'm very excited to be talking to lots of yoga teachers who will explain their passion for teaching yoga to students with different ages, physical fitness levels, wellness levels, and different goals. They will explain the benefits of yoga for these students and will be including teacher tips and pose modifications. I am Stephanie Cunningham of Yoga Lightness, and I've been teaching over 50s for 10 years. So this area is my passion and the passion of many other yoga teachers that you will be listening to in this series. Thank you so much for listening, and let's get started. Hello, this is Stephanie Cunningham with Changing with Changing the Face of Yoga, and I'm speaking to Lauren Maher today, and Lauren and I are going to talk about her wonderful retreats, because I've never had anybody talk about retreats, and I think it's a really interesting part of yoga. And Lauren is a very interesting person, so I'm going to tell you about her. She's a certified yoga therapist. She's an associate marriage and family therapist and a Reiki master. And she wants to help people reduce stress, anxiety, and ease chronic pain and find a path toward happiness and healing. She's been teaching yoga in Los Angeles for over 17 years and focuses on gentle yoga, therapeutic yoga for injuries and illnesses, and gentle Kundalini yoga. She specializes in working with cancer patients during and post-treatment. She's particularly interested in teaching people tools to manage stress and anxiety and to heal trauma. And Lauren leads classes, private sessions, workshops, and international retreats. And she really strives to make yoga accessible to all. So welcome, Lauren, and I'm so glad you joined us. And is there anything you'd like to add to that introduction?
Well, thank you so much for having me, firstly. And no, I think that was a pretty thorough introduction. I think that about gets it.
Okay, great. All right. Now, what I've asked Lauren to think about and what I've thought about too is she has these really wonderful retreats, and I'm seriously thinking about going to the one next year. And I want to talk about, are there some therapeutic benefits to a retreat that might be more difficult to find in the client arena or classes or whatever? So my first question is, why have you decided to add retreats to a whole bunch of things that you're doing? You must be very, very busy.
Well, yes, I guess you could say I'm an overachiever. So I usually have a few balls going in the air at the same time. But, where the idea came for retreats, this is something that I've had a long-standing dream of having a retreat company. It's been something that I've wanted to do for a very long time. And I started dipping my toe into those waters probably about 7 or 8 years ago. But I have a real passion for travel, and I've been fortunate in my life that I've been able to travel a lot and started traveling as a child. And I just find that nothing kind of breaks down the barriers between people and even within yourself towards growth, I think, as traveling. I believe that it gives you a completely new perspective around the world. It gives you oftentimes a new perspective around yourself to step out of your environment and into something completely new. So I just knew when I started practicing yoga and teaching yoga that retreats could be a way to really bring people into community, first and foremost, which I think is one of the things that sometimes in modern day studios we're lacking. Sometimes people are running in and out of classes, and we don't have as much of the community sense as maybe we did in the past. And then also giving people really a lot of time to be in a different environment, to be with themselves, to be introspective, to be learning about new cultures, learning about themselves, and of course, really enjoying themselves at the same time, right?
Yes.
It's hard not to enjoy yourself when you're eating great meals and drinking wine and doing yoga, seeing wonderful scenery. But I think there's a lot of things you can do on a retreat that you can't do just in classes or in a one-on-one session. One is even just something as simple as having someone practice for 7 days in a row. It's something a lot of our students maybe don't do every day. So seeing how the practice changes from day to day is really illuminating. I've heard from some of my clients that, why one day you may be feeling a certain way in your body. Everything comes really easily to you. The next day, maybe you're a little more tired and you have to honor that. Maybe the day after that, you just sink into a really beautiful meditation and you find yourself more expansive in some ways. And maybe another day it's a little harder to get there, but people learn to sort of ride the wave of their practice in a different way when you're really sitting with it in a retreat. And that's one of my favorite things. That's hard to do when you've just got someone for an hour, maybe once a week.
Yeah. Okay. Really good point. I hadn't thought about that, but that's true. It does give you that opportunity to maybe start a personal practice and understand, it's setting that habit up, which is always really difficult. But if you can do it away from all of the other things that may make you want to do something different, then it really is helpful. Oh, excellent point. I like that.
The other thing, too, is that you have a community of people around you as you start that more kind of daily personal practice. And so I've seen these amazing friendships form on retreats. And then now all of a sudden you have a community of yogis around you that maybe you didn't have before. So I think that's another thing that really keeps people in their practice in a profound way.
Okay, great. So other than possibly, really getting them to start a personal practice, do you see any other therapeutic benefits from a retreat type setting?
It depends on the kind of retreat that I'm leading. Certainly in some of my more local retreats where we go somewhere, let's say about, an hour and a half or so outside of Los Angeles, and we're just staying in one location the whole time, I will very often take a pulse with my retreat guests before they come about what's coming up for them, what's going on physically. Is there anything that they would like to work on? And I don't know if it's just great synchronicity that it's happened this way for me before, but oftentimes there will be a common through line, whether that's some physical issues people are working on, whether it's something that's coming up in the community that seems to be emotional, that's hitting a lot of people. And then we can kind of really tailor the retreat and all that we do around some of that. So that's been really fun. On the international retreats, I find them to be therapeutic in the sense that it's especially right now, we have a lot going on in the world right now, and people are anxious and they're overwhelmed, they're overscheduled, they're going from their phone to their computer, they're not getting enough sleep, all of this stuff. So just, it would be easy to just frame it up as a vacation, and it is a vacation, but I think it's more than that when you're combining the intentionality of doing yoga and the intentionality of having relaxation and meditation with your vacation. It just gives people a way to pull back from some of that anxiety, to get different tools and how they manage it, to get a little bit of different perspective. And I also think too, I mentioned people forming friendships. That has been one of the most incredible things, is to see people coming together through their shared love of yoga and through their shared love of exploring other cultures and forming really wonderful support systems with those friends. So I think having a strong support system is one of the best things that we can do for self-care.
Oh, okay. Excellent. So you've heard of these kinds of things from your students? Your students are articulating these kinds of benefits, or are there other things that they've said?
Well, one of the most fun things, I'm thinking of a specific retreat I did in Italy. This was probably 5 years ago. We had a group of, I want to say there were 6 or 7 people who have now basically become best friends. And they do these monthly dinners together. They actually traveled again to Italy together as a group. Sometimes I'll get, cute little pictures of all of them, and they even celebrate their retreat anniversary. Which is so wonderful. But yeah, a lot of people have articulated that, and have articulated too, getting a fresh eyes and new perspective. We had someone come on a recent retreat who's been struggling with what to do with a certain work situation and some personal situations, and getting out of that environment and into something else just enabled her to finally cut the cord on a few things that needed to happen to get a different perspective and to find the courage to do it as well. I think sometimes we have to step out of our environment to find the courage to change it. Otherwise, we're just on the hamster wheel, of getting up, doing the same thing every day, and maybe wanting to make a change, but not understanding how it's possible.
Yeah, I also think when you go outside of yourself and into a new environment, your creativity increases also. I think because you aren't, a couple of reasons. One, you're in a new place, so the brain's kind of going, oh, wow, there's all this new stuff. And secondly, you're not being held, you're not in that old environment. So you can look back on it with, I think, a little more objectivity. Mm-hmm. So I think, that's great.
And depending on what culture you are going to, especially on an international retreat, you will learn things or be exposed to things in that culture that are different from where you are at home. One of the most simple things that I love traveling in Italy so often is that I love that, in my experience, Italians will very rarely ask me what I do for a living, but they will always ask me what I like to do for fun.
Oh, really?
So it's just a very interesting frame shift of, especially Americans. Very often we tend to identify ourselves by what we do for a living. And it's often the very first thing someone asks you, oh, hi, what's your name? What do you do? And so, but what someone does for a living, that may or may not be their passion. And so I love the framing up of, what do you do for fun? What do you do for relaxation? What's that like for you? It was a very different shift for me to have people ask me that right away.
Yeah, and that's when you can really, because I live in a different country, because I came from the States, but I now live in Australia, and that's the first thing you notice is they organize themselves slightly differently in their society than we do, and I'm not used to that. So how does that work?
Right. And in a place like Italy, the value on having these beautiful meals together, not rushing, sitting down, taking the time, tasting all of the flavors, being really mindful with things like food, for instance, is just that alone can be life-changing for some people, and just giving ourselves that time and space to create a bit of slowness for ourselves is really wonderful. So I think all the benefits of different cultures that you go to, that is something that I feel personally very passionately about. And that's something that I wanted to try to bring into the lives of my students and my clients, because I think it's just something that opens your eyes. It frees up your mind. It fills up your heart. I think it makes us more empathetic to people around us. And it just feeds your soul in so many different ways.
I agree, especially Italy. It's one of my favorites.
Especially Italy. Yes. It's by far my favorite place to travel. I've been traveling there since I was 15 years old, and I go every year, and I learn to speak the language, and I just love it.
Yeah, me too. I'm Italian, and I remember really huge meals, because my grandfather was one of 18, I think, or 13, some amazing amount of children. And they'd have these huge meals where all the Italian women would bring their specialties. And, literally the table went from one end of the house to the other. And it was I remember being a kid and just being, oh my gosh, this is so out of what I'm used to, and I just love it. So maybe that's why I love Italy so much.
Oh, it's so wonderful. It's so wonderful. And the food is incredible. It's fresh. Everything is organic. It's often picked right out of the backyard before you eat it. Yeah. That's really wonderful. And I love the pride that people take in their cooking there.
And their wine's not bad.
Oh, yeah. The wine's not too shabby either. You can't go wrong with that. And then when you're eating these beautiful foods and you're drinking the wine that is exactly from that region, there's just this incredible, it's like alchemy that happens. It's just perfect together.
It is. So I did a quick scan of your retreats, and I noticed that you were in Italy and that you do some that are close to where you live in LA. Is there any other places that you go routinely?
Well, I've done quite a few in Ojai. Recently, sadly, there's been a number of fires in Ojai, so it remains to be seen if I'll be able to use our old retreat location there. So I'm looking into one in Joshua Tree this year, so that's not too far outside of LA. And then I also do day retreats, which is a nice option sometimes for people that can't get away for a weekend or can't go to an international retreat. I host pretty much quarterly, I'd say, one-day retreats. It's in a cabin up in a park called Monrovia Canyon Park. And it's just a beautiful location where you feel like you're way out of the city, but you're really only about a half an hour outside of the city. And those are a really nice forum for just people coming together in community. We practice yoga and meditation in the morning. We have a long lunch together. Nearby, there's a waterfall that people can hike to. And then we'll do some kind of talk about yoga philosophy or self-care or something like that in the afternoon. Then we'll wind down with a, meditation practice or a sound bath or something like that. And so those are really nice, they're just like little mini retreats, little mini getaways for people. But my aim is for people to feel very refreshed at the end of those days, as though they have taken a weekend away.
Okay. All right. They sound like a good idea. I like that. So who do you think comes to a retreat? What do you think their motivation is for wanting to, well, let's do just the international retreat, because that's quite a commitment of time and money and, willing to be that away from everything for a long time.
I mean, I can only speak to the people that have come on my retreats, but
correct.
Typically they are all seekers. They're all people that are interested in life. They're all people that most of them have traveled before, although not all of them have, or at least internationally. But most of them tend to be travelers already. They tend to be people that love art, culture, music. A lot of them are foodies. That's big, especially going to places like Greece and Italy. People that love food and love wine are very attracted to going on these kinds of retreats. And I think people that are just looking for something a little bit different. Obviously, anyone can just buy a plane ticket and go to any place they want in the world now and get on kayak and get a hotel room, right? So it tends to be people that are interested in these more sort of cultural experiences, that are seekers, that have a spiritual side to them and are wanting to practice yoga and meditation. And I think why they've been attracted to my retreats is a lot of them have a personal relationship with me. So they know what style of yoga I'm teaching and what I might bring to the table on that front. And I think they appreciate that for our retreat company, we really try to curate the retreat. So every location that we go to that location first. We scout everything out. We go to the restaurants. We go into the stores and meet with the artisans. We really try to craft something that's going to be a really immersive experience that hits on the levels of body and mind and spirit through all of the different things that we do. So I think that's what people are attracted to, is that they're going to get hopefully an authentic experience of that culture. And it's going to be something that's going to be curated around those specific interests that they have.
Excellent. And how much do you think that the yoga aspect of it impacts on their motivation?
I think it's a motivator. I don't think it's the only thing, though. And I think that probably has to do with who I am marketing to and who my retreats are for. I think there are certainly lots of yoga retreats out there where people go somewhere and it's more like a yoga intensive. And, they're practicing yoga for 4, 5, 6 hours a day, even I've seen, and or even almost doing like a teacher training there. And so I think those are the people that are really wanting a very intense yoga experience. My retreats have yoga, and that is a big part of them, but we're doing a lot more than just yoga. And the way I view it is, personally, if I'm traveling all the way to another country, I want to go see the towns and eat the food and do things like that. So a lot of this just came out of what felt organic to me, because that's all I really knew how to do. And it turns out my students felt the same way. They felt like, okay, let's do our yoga or meditation. We'll do some stuff like that in the morning. We'll bond together in that way. We'll learn new things. We'll get relaxed. We'll do self-care. And then let's go exploring. Let's really go see what this country has to offer and look around and be curious. So I'm sure there are many retreats where the big draw is to, really have this intense yoga experience all day. Those are just not my retreats.
Okay. No, you have to know what you want to do. I agree.
Yeah.
And I think on those intense yoga retreats, and I found them rather boring after a while, to be honest.
Yeah, it's just, I wouldn't be opposed to doing one of those, but I would rather do that close to home. I just feel like the expense that it takes to get to another country, and for some people that might be the only time they go to that country. And so I certainly wouldn't feel right taking somebody to Umbria in Italy and not taking them to Assisi. I wouldn't feel right about that. And part of it is just I get very excited about traveling, and when I see a wonderful town or a brilliant piece of art or a medieval cathedral or a Roman amphitheater, I get so excited about it. I want to share it with people. So part of it just comes from my love and curiosity of seeing these new places and wanting to share it with the people that I care about.
Great. That's an excellent explanation, isn't it, of why you do it and why someone might want to come to the retreat too. Okay, so we've pretty much gone through the therapeutic benefits of this. Is there anything else you would like to say about the retreats that you would like to share with the listeners?
That was a good question. Well, one of the things that I think there's a few things that come up for me. One is this idea, and maybe this comes out of me being a therapist, but I'm always interested in, what is the story we're telling ourselves about our life? What are the mantras we're telling ourselves, and are they positive and encouraging? Are they negative and discouraging? And I think that doing things like traveling, going on retreats, making strong decisions in those ways, like it gives us a really powerful way to look at what story we're writing and to step back and to reevaluate and say, what is the story coming up that I want to write for myself? What do I want my life to look like? So I think retreats, that's one thing that I love, that they give us an opportunity to do that. And then another thing that I wanted to talk about is something that I am looking forward to doing very much is specialized retreats. So for instance, I have worked with cancer patients during and post-treatment for a very long time. And one of the things that I would like to start exploring is doing retreats for, say, people that are post-treatment, women that have had breast cancer that are maybe, 6 months to a year post-treatment, and bringing people together in community and really tailoring the yoga and the meditation and all those self-care skills around that group of people. And then at the same time, having a wonderful retreat experience. But I'm really wanting to draw people in community and kind of maybe ways that we hadn't thought of before. Like I'd love to do retreats for writers that are perhaps they're working on their memoirs, or they're working on a screenplay. But I think there's a lot of ways in which we can start to combine creativity with yoga and meditation. And to me, it all comes from the same place. It all comes from the same wellspring. So I'm looking forward to some more creative ways of holding some of these retreats where they're really geared around some special interests and bring people together in community. In my ideal world, I love sort of like the old salons that people used to have, where people would come together in discussions and talk about things and shared interests and support and challenge each other to think in new ways. And then also having, along with that sense of community, just this really fun experience of traveling and enjoying new places and new food and things like that.
It sounds wonderful. If you ever put one together for yoga and art, let me know.
I will. It's funny you mentioned that. My aunt, her name is Joni Cavell. She's an amazing painter, and she used to lead these art trips in Italy, actually, about, 15 years ago or something like that. She'd take people around and they would paint. She'd take them to different cities. And so she came on this last Italy retreat I had. And I said, it must be in the blood that we just want to run travel trips in this family.
It's not a bad gene, though, really.
No, it's not a bad gene. It's not a bad gene. Whole family has the travel gene.
No, I have the travel gene too, and I find it very satisfying. Mm-hmm. But other members of my family are just kind of like, "Why would you do that?"
Yeah, it's not for everybody, and I think too, with travel, you really do have to be willing and able to roll with the punches a little bit. Sometimes your flight is delayed or something weird happens and you get a little frustrated, and, it starts pouring rain right while you're trying to ask somebody directions in a foreign language, and you're jet lagged, and those things can happen while traveling, and that's fine. And I try on my retreats to give people the space to say, hey, this is your retreat. If you're tired still from that long plane ride, take a nap, do what you want. It's up to you. But I do think, traveling definitely, it makes you very resilient, especially in those moments where maybe things don't go exactly as planned while traveling, and you figure it out. You always figure it out somehow. And then you feel a little stronger, a little more resilient, maybe a little more accomplished after that. And so I love that aspect of it, but I recognize that some people, are like, I don't want to do that.
It's okay, I'll pass. Okay.
I don't want to be challenged in that way. That's fine. I'm fine at home. So, to each his own, that's fine.
Yes. Well, this has been a great interview. I love the idea of the therapeutic benefits of yoga and a retreat. I hadn't really thought about that until I started thinking, what do I want to know about this? And it's just great that you've picked out some really important things that people can take away from the retreat while really enjoying themselves on the retreat. So I really want to thank you And I'm going to give your contact details, and I certainly want people to look at your retreats. Like I said, I'm seriously thinking of the one in Umbria. I love that part of Italy. I've been all over Italy except Sicily and Venice, and I love Umbria the most.
I love Umbria too. I think it's a bit similar to Tuscany, but a little more wild somehow.
It is.
Less tourists and a little bit of a different landscape, but I just love it. And I think the people are so generous and kind and wonderful there.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite parts about Italy is just the kind-heartedness and generosity of the people that I have encountered there.
They are the very, very interesting people. And I think I'm right. I could be wrong, but I think Michelangelo came from that area.
He very well may have.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I always thought that was interesting because it has the most, as an artist, it has the most incredible light.
Yes.
It's just amazing.
The golden light.
Yeah, it's great. So anyway, people, anything you'd like to just add at the very end before I do your contact details?
Well, I'm just so grateful to have been able to do this with you. I thank you for having me. And if anyone has any questions for me about retreats, feel free to reach out. And I just would like to impart to everybody, whether it's a retreat or not, if you've got the travel gene or if you suspect you may have the wanderlust gene, I encourage you to act on it in both small ways and big. I think it enriches your life tremendously to travel.
Yes. I agree. So if you would like to contact Lauren, her yoga website is www.breathedeepyoga.com. Her retreat website is www.volare, VOLARE, retreats.com. And her Facebook is facebook.com/Breathe Deep Yoga 1. And that's all one big one word. Instagram is Breathe Deep Yoga, as is Twitter. And she's also on LinkedIn. So as Lauren Maher. So thank you, Lauren. I really appreciate this. I think we've found a common love here.
Yes, thank you so much. It's like Italy gets in your blood, and then it does.
It started in mine, and it's just expanded. So
salivating, thinking about the pasta coming up.
Oh, I know.
Yes.
The food is. I remember having a vegetable dish in Italy that was the most magnificent thing. I don't think I've ever had anything as good since then.
And it's amazing. It's usually just something really simple. It'll be a zucchini with salt and a little bit of basil and some olive oil, and you're going bananas over it. What kind of sorcery is this? What are you doing?
You can't believe it, but it was just amazing. Oh, Lord, it was so good. Anyway. So, thank you, Lauren. Thank you so much for talking to us about retreats. I think I hope a lot of people get interested in those. So thanks again.
I hope so. Thank you so much for having me.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for that wonderful interview. If you would like to be a guest on Changing the Face of Yoga, please go to my website, www.yogalightness.com.au, and under the Changing the Face of Yoga tab, you can complete Be Our Guest form. After reviewing the form and finding it applicable to this podcast, we will send you a link to schedule an interview. Please download, review, and tell your friends of any podcasts that are of interest to you and to them. If you would like to contact me, send an email to info@yogalightness.com.au. And thank you for listening to Changing the Face of Yoga.